Okay, here we are again. Uh, this comment right here, this one, this is a fantastic comment. Both are actually very good comments because this all has to do with thermodynamics, wind pressure, like there's a whole slew of things that go along with this. The basis of it falls along the same lines of airspeed. Like, you picture yourself flying in an airplane. What do airplanes have? Airplanes have special chemicals in the wings to keep ice from forming because faster air, it's colder. Higher elevation, colder. I mean, you're dealing with all kinds of just different things. See, if you're stagnant, no air movement, no nothing, the air around you heats up because of your body temperature. Same thing in an engine bay. If there's no airflow through the engine bay, the engine is heating the air around it. Now, with how my vehicle's set up, there is a lot of open spaces all throughout the engine bay and under the wheel well and around the wheel well. There's a whole bunch. Uh, Basically, uh, Jared here, the factory one is routed through the front of the grill. Do you really think this new filter moves enough air to cool it that much? That is a fantastic question. See, what he's looking at is this right here. Now, when you picture the routing system of this air, you're thinking, oh, it's routed somewhere through here. But in these 80s, 90s F-250s, it's actually routed right here. This little crack right here. You're talking, just this. I mean, it's uh, point 0.6 something. I pulled up the specs on it. It's point 0.6 something by 6 something. It is small. We're talking like 42 square inches of space in the filter. Like that filter, that's how big it is. I mean, it's just, you're going from this little tiny crack, sucking in, basically, your reverse funnel. Reverse funnel. You stick a funnel in your face and you're trying to suck through a tiny, tiny hole at the end of it. You're not getting that much airflow. Now, it's very restricted because a lot of these actually had twin ports where it was split in the middle of where it mounted here and here, because these a lot of these were mounted to the plate, and then the wiring harness for the light bulb actually went between them. See, that's difficult because, I mean, you're talking a small square here and a small square here. That's your intake, and these two, like this one is like 1 inch by 1 inch, if that, and then this is like 1.5 inch by 1 inch. I mean, it's tiny. And then when you look at these ones, again, just right here, this little crevice, that's your air intake for the entire vehicle, and that's tiny. That is real tiny. That's this is one of the models. It bolts to the side of the grill frame, but that's your intake, and it goes through this weird little bend, and then it goes into the box. That goes into your box. Uh, See right here, you've got this small, like, you see this. That's just how it's shaped. This little tiny itty bitty line right here, that is your air intake, which then goes into this, which then feeds this, and then you have these two big gaping openings that feed the engine. So you're going reverse funnel to a tight knit filter. These filters are actually very, very tightly knit. are woven, so they restrict airflow themselves, and that gets a little bit dangerous. Uh, this is the other model that, like, I have the 460. This is the 460. This is the next step down. Same truck, next step down in engine size. That's your air opening, and this literally goes underneath the hood. That's your air intake. Just those two little spots right there, and then it goes into a dual port. Like this, you can only see the one, but this is actually a dual port, just like the other one, except for it's vertical. Like you see them how they're turned sideways, and then you have the two holes, one on top, one on bottom. Yeah, the 460 they're side by side, dead center in the vehicle. Uh, but that besides the point. See, this tons of surface area. You're talking massive amounts of surface area all the way around the whole filter. You're uh, for the original size. You're talking from like here to here to here to here. That's all the airflow you're getting is just this little bit. And that's if you're lucky. I mean, these are absolutely like great questions. Absolutely great questions. Like I like, you know, mechanics. I like working and tinkering with things. I like breaking things down. I like doing it. It is what I do. I mean, I may work in the medical field right now, but I have several degrees. I have engineering degrees. I have mechanic, you know, degrees. I've got tons of things, and I'm also ordained. So, I have my hand in a lot of cookie jars here. But my main passion is vehicles. I grew up dealing with them with my grandfather, my dad, my uncle, my aunt. I mean, hell, hell, my grandfather. I mean, working on his little sports car, little Sportster. I mean, he had one of the old red Cobras. I mean, beautiful car. But that's the whole thing is how is it cold air intake if it's drawing air from inside the engine bay? You're taking the original airport from behind an halogen bulb. Most people are wanted to get better airflow, so they removed that whole portion. They would remove this whole portion right here, so that they could have this big massive opening. You take out this, you'd have this big massive opening, and there was a secondary that you could get where it would have a vent here that would go down under the vehicle. Well, the problem with that is this vent, instead of going behind the light or next to the light, it would go down next to the exhaust, sucking hot air. Hot air is expanded air, meaning there's less oxygen. And an engine needs oxygen, not just air, oxygen, to operate properly. If you don't have the proper amount of oxygen, you're operating poorly. So you're just burning fuel for the sake of burning it. You have lower torque, lower output, lower power. I mean, if you use this model right here, this if you take this model here and you put that drop down intake on it, you lose like 7 horsepower. I mean that's it. Seven not may not be the right amount, but I mean you're losing just a bit of horsepower, and that I mean it may not seem like that much, but I mean that's the difference of struggling pulling a trailer to you know being able to just get up and go with it. There's just just a couple horsepower different, and it changes the whole dynamics of the vehicle. Now, if you take the top off of this, or take the bottom off of it, and just run an air vent like this, you're drawing air at a higher speed, further away from the engine, and it's actually drawing the air in quickly enough to where it is speeding up, which cools it down. Now, if you take your lips and you pucker them real close together and you breathe in real fast, you feel that, oh, it's colder there. It's colder because it's restricted. But if you take a deep breath, you get a colder feeling. That's the whole principle. You go, you get that cold air. You get a little air, it's cold, but it's not the same. You get more from it. That's why when you see uh, divers or people that hold their breath for a long time, they don't go. They open their mouths wide and get as much oxygen in as possible to enrich their blood. It's the same concept with your vehicle. You're trying to get as much oxygen in to enrich the engine so that it can burn the fuel and put out more power. I mean, I, I'm not going to knock these guys. I mean, they're damn good questions. You know, do they not quite understand what's going on? Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's a hard thing to get through. I mean, unless you pull up like actual like physics documents and paperwork and all kinds of stuff, you don't quite understand it, because a lot of people are under the assumption that a cold air intake is like that big old breather on the top of the hood, and or it's a big air vent from outside the car and there's a big old hole in the side and then it goes inside. It's like that one's a blower and the other one is a cold air intake because it's taking the engine air from outside the engine bay. But the further you move the intake away from the actual engine and the exhaust, the more it's considered cold air intake, because you're not just taking air from right next to the engine. Like if your engine's here and your intake is here, that's a hot air intake. If you move it over to here, it's a cold air intake because it's taking the colder air from away from the engine. It's the whole concept behind it. But I mean, it, I already answered. I already posted in the answer to this to them directly. But I just wanted to make another video because people don't quite understand it. Because these trucks, I mean, they are beasts. And when you look at this front end, that is a beast of a truck. That is a monster. And then you see this big gaping opening where the radiator is, and you're thinking, wow, that thing breathes a lot of air. Well, yeah, it does. You've got air just pounding right straight through that. But when you have all of this hooked up and it's all locked down tight as a friggin' nun's cunt, your air is just this little slot right here. That's all your engine air is, that right there. Just that itty bitty little bit right there. I mean, that is ridiculous. Here, I'll even enhance it for you. This little bitty itty bitty little slot right here. That's your air intake for this entire monster of a 460 cubic inch engine. Just this little thing right here. I mean, that the difference. This is the difference. This little top right here. That that right there. That right there is that intake. If I pop the top of this, that is the intake that you have when you put on one of these SB filters. You're changing it completely. I mean, there's a lot of airflow. I mean that right there, that's a lot. And that's a big difference. You're going you're basically going from a quarter to a full dollar bill. That's your size difference. I mean that is, let's see if we do this guy here. Boom. That's this is the standard model. So its vent is actually horizontal underneath the light. That's your air intake right there. Just that little snippet for this entire monster of a truck. I mean that's a kick in the pants, isn't it? That's ridiculous. And I mean you're going from this little sliver, down here, to this medium sized opening here, to this big opening here, and then back down to these smaller openings. It defeats the purpose. You're going small, bigger, small, bigger. It it's just it drives me nuts how these things were built and people are like, oh yeah, this is great, this is perfect. It's not. It's a big old pile of shit. But yeah, more airflow, better power, cooler air. I mean, it all falls onto the same principles from aircrafts and aerodynamics, thermodynamics. It's a wild nest of shit just slammed together. But I mean, thank you guys. I mean, thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for asking questions. Because there's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, well, I watched this video from, so and so, and they said that dogs can't look up. Well, have you ever seen a dog? You can actually test that theory. You can actually go online and look and see, like, talk to a vet. But you don't get answers if you don't ask questions. And if you ask questions, I'm more than willing to make another video over and over and over again until you know until it goes through. I mean, it's fantastic what you guys are talking about and what you guys are asking. I'm more than willing. And as a highlight, my new new toy, this guy. This is what I got to test my Jeep because somebody has tampered with my Jeep and it is not working. So I got this. It's an injector tester. You hook up these two to your battery terminal, these two to your injector terminals, which, just like the other guy who I watched on YouTube, by the way, I mean, as he stated, these would be better if they were just alligator clips. Now I have a whole bunch of alligator clips. I mean, I bought a 50 pack, so I have 25 pairs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut one in half, and I'm going to put a blade on it so that I can stick the blades in here, and then I'll have the alligator clips and the blade clips just so I can, do that. And this pack actually came with this kit actually came with the injector cleaner attachments. So what happens is you stick the top of these onto like your carb cleaner. Like you pull the nozzle off the carb cleaner, you stick this on there, and then you put your injector in here, and you tap it down, and then run the machine, and the machine sprays the cleaner through. So that is a really ingenious little tool, and this was $27. I'll post a link to this one, but I mean, you really can't argue with that. Now, the downside to this is you can't test it. You can't test it and then change the modes. You have to disconnect the power and then reconnect it, and then pick a mode and test it, disconnect it, choose it. You have to do that, but I honestly, I would rather have it that way than connect it, set a mode, test it, and then bump the mode and change the mode and break, a $90 fuel injector. I would rather test it and be like, okay, oh, I can't change it because it's locked into that mode because I've already started a test. I actually like that. I like that a lot, where you can't accidentally change the pulse and screw anything up. I mean, with how injectors are, that is it's a big thing. But I mean, comes in a nice little pouch, nice little deal. But that is the brand name. It's a neat little device. I mean, can't beat that for $27. I mean, hell, you go down to, say, a mechanic. You go to a mechanic shop, and you're talking. Mechanics are, what was it? 55 to $75 just for their hour, or you can pay, like, I think it's uh, two of the places around here. It's $85 minimum just for a diagnostic, and then for the injector diagnostic, if you have, whatever, like if you have a specific type of vehicle with a specific type of injector, they charge you different. So you're talking like, you know, $200 just to get your injectors checked. I spent $27 on that, and all I have to do is just put the leads on and push a button, and I can hear the injectors clicking, or I can take the injectors completely out and test them outside of the engine so I can see the spray. $27 and a little bit of time. That's good enough for me. But thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Maybe you guys will see this video, and we'll go from there. But thanks again.